Today we're going to be hearing from the Real Casadaro.
The plan was to go into C# at some point, but the more I get into JavaScript, like the deeper it goes. It's just crazy. How easy is it for you to get a job at one of these Fortune 500 companies because you've been using the technology already? There's 1,000 different options, right? Do I write stuff for iOS? Do I write stuff for Mac? Do I write stuff for Windows? Do I write stuff for Android? Do I write stuff for the internet? Their core message is to empower every business and person in the world to do more, right? So they're saying we want to make everybody better. The first people there who are good at their craft and they know how to craft these, really beautiful applications, they're gonna make a killing, man. It's gonna be very exciting. But only if you get on that boat,
The Real Casadaro, husband, father, veteran, codepreneur, and thought leader.
If the bottom does fall out, right, and the chances are very slim because you're following something that's humongous. But if it does, you can switch up the game.
Hey, what's up? Go check out this channel. He's working full-time with Microsoft as a sysadmin. He's also learning to be a software developer. The first video of his that I came across was this one titled How I Came to Work with Insight Global at Microsoft. I was really intrigued by his story, by his outlook, his mindset. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. So what I wanted to start with then is just to know, what are you excited about right now?
I work at Microsoft, right? I'm not a full-time employee. I'm a orange badge, right? And so it's a contractor. So another company pays me. Microsoft pays them. They pay me, and I work at Microsoft. I have access to all the Microsoft facilities. And I have access to everything at Microsoft, but there's some stuff that I don't get not being a direct employee of Microsoft. Like I don't get like stock options and stuff like that. But I found that this is probably the best way to get into the company because you're so close. But that was just to give you context. What I'm really excited about is the stuff that I see Microsoft doing. So I was using Mac from like 2007 all the way up until they hired me, and I went onto the campus. And because of everything I do, I'm all in. When I got there, I said, dude, I got to be all in. I have to know the technologies these guys are using. I have to know how they think. And so immediately, right, as soon as I had enough cash, I went and got a Surface Book Pro. I had a Surface Book before, and what's funny is I had sold it like literally like 2 weeks before I got the phone call from Microsoft. It was crazy, man. So I went and bought another one, and I was all in. I started looking at their ecosystem, and I found out they've been doing a bunch of stuff in the background. If you guys don't know, they bought LinkedIn, they bought lynda.com, they bought a company called Xamarin a few years back. And then they started open sourcing a lot of their stuff. They have evangelists traveling all over the country and around the world talking about open source technologies like Node.js, JavaScript, Angular, which is from Google. And then and they have created, and they're continue to work on and refine a way for web developers and software developers to write these enterprise level applications using these languages that have been traditionally open source, right? So now you can if you know JavaScript, right, you pick up TypeScript, which is just a superset of JavaScript. It's all the same stuff, but using TypeScript, you can transform JavaScript from a dynamically typed language to a statically typed language. And it adds classes and all this other stuff. So you can write these real robust enterprise level applications in TypeScript, but they still run on the web because they're JavaScript. And once they're written, you have a way to port them to different devices. Now, what's super cool is C#, right? So iOS, you got to learn Swift. Android, you have to learn JavaScript. If you learn C#, which is very similar to both of those, and then it's not there yet, but I'm pretty sure that Microsoft is going to come up with a way for us to port our JavaScript that we've typed using the TypeScript syntax into C Sharp. Once it's in C Sharp, we can run it through Xamarin. It goes to iOS, it goes to Android. And what's cool is that the teams at Microsoft, they're really looking into, you know, the SDKs of both these platforms. So when you make something in C Sharp and you send it through Xamarin and you port it out into iOS, it has all of those features that you would have if you were using, you know, the iOS SDK. So that's really that really excites me, the ability to learn potentially just 2 languages, C Sharp and JavaScript. In JavaScript you can already use everywhere. C Sharp, if you're using .NET, you can use on your back end, and then in some cases you can use it on your front end. So I see what they're really compressing everything down, and they're going to give developers access to every platform out there. So imagine writing, you build a web application, and now you can turn it into a very beautiful, slick running application for iOS devices and Android devices. The plan was to go into C Sharp at some point, but the more I get into JavaScript, like the deeper it goes. It's just crazy. Like it does everything. Like, and that's a problem, because it does everything. And now you, like, a lot of the times you don't know what to do. There's so many different ways to do everything, but it's a very powerful language. And it just makes me happy because it's complicated. So you're solving a puzzle all the time. But then what really excites me is one of the largest software development companies in the world. And I mean, there's other stuff going on at Microsoft that just blows my mind, but for them to embrace the open source community, for them to embrace other operating systems and platforms. Like I use Outlook on my iPhone. It's the best email application I've ever used. Stuff like that. And then they're really empowering us. They're really empowering the software community to make an impact. And then the stuff that you learn is used at the enterprise level, man. The money that companies are paying Microsoft to do stuff, to write C Sharp, is phenomenal, right? And so imagine you get this Fortune 500 company, they've done all their stuff in C Sharp, it's all running on Azure. You decided to become a developer, you learned JavaScript, you picked up TypeScript, and now you're using the .NET framework, and you decide you want to go out into the world and get a job, right? How easy is it for you to get a job at one of these Fortune 500 companies because you've been using the technology already? And I think Microsoft sees this. They're looking, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles down the road. I see what's coming from Microsoft in the App Store, and just the opportunity that developers are going to have to become really good at building stuff. But also there's going to be a huge income opportunity, both in the real world, from new companies and new people adopting the Microsoft ecosystem, but also from the Windows App Store, the Microsoft App Store, because it's been garbage for a long time, right? And everybody knows it. Everybody at Microsoft knows it, right? But now, as people are starting to buy, like Surface Book sales are up, MacBook sales are down, as people are starting to pick up these devices, we're going to have a real reason to develop. And the first people there who are good at their craft and they know how to craft these, really beautiful applications, they're gonna make a killing, man. It's gonna be very exciting. But only if you get on that boat,
What's coming up for me is embracing the idea of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And embracing that. It's okay because there are these companies that have got a lot of momentum behind them.
When I first got there and I started, I got the Surface Book, and then I had the Microsoft Word balance. People go, "Man, you're drinking the Kool-Aid," and I go, "Bro, like, if you're here, you gotta be here, man. That's how you be." And it doesn't matter like where you are and if you work at McDonald's, right? Like, embrace it. Like, you gotta be there all in. But at the same time, you still gotta be yourself, right? And so the universe just sort of matched up for me, right? Because the message that Microsoft, their core message is to empower every business and person in the world to do more, right? So they're saying we want to make everybody better, and I can see that in everything that they produce. Like, just dude, they're pushing out updates to Visual Studio Code like almost every day. freaking Azure which is sort of the ecosystem I work in, the Office 365. And man, they're pushing updates like every 4 hours, right? So I mean, like, you have this worldwide distributed piece of software that is constantly changing and growing. It's like a human, right? Like it's and so, but yeah, they're the ethos there, how they operate, and then just like now they're giving a bunch of stuff away. They're giving a bunch of stuff away, and they're pushing these technologies that may not have been, like JavaScript, for instance, right? You know, it came with this stick. Oh, if you know JavaScript, you only program on the web, right? And now you got this company, they come along, right? And they're $1 billion company. They say, hey, look, hold on, man. Like this language is everywhere. And if they say they like it, then automatically everybody else likes it. Node.js. Microsoft says we like Node.js. And now you know, you can, us as developers, we know we can go out and we can learn these things because they're going to be around a while, right? And we'll always be able to use them, right? These guys run the internet, right? Google runs the internet. So if you learn Angular, the chance of it being obsolete is slim to none. Like the Chrome browser is going to be around forever, right? So yeah, so when you say stand on the shoulders of giants, you know, it took me a while to realize this. I've always sort of been of the attitude, like, if you're in it, you got to be all the way in it. But yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with going like, dude, I like it. It's for wherever you are. Like, if you're an iOS developer, then embrace it. Like that's your thing, right? Own it all the way. But at the same time, I mean, be cognizant of, you know, of where you are and the how you may become locked into that. But once you understand, it's cool, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And I mean, if you had that mindset in that drive to reach a level of success, you know, in iOS or Android or wherever you are, whatever you're doing, then, you know, if the bottom does fall out, right, and the chances are very slim because you're following something that's humongous. If it does, you can switch up the game, and you'll see what's coming. So yeah, man, I'm all about standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Me and you, we're here talking because somebody at Google was like, dude, I want to make a way for 2 people to talk on the internet, no problem, right? But I think some of us forget this, right? You know, even me, right? The lone developer in his bedroom. Oh, I don't use that because it's not open source, you know. And we get it sort of in our ways, man. But yeah, it's not necessary anymore. It's really not.
Did you describe, it sounded like what you were describing was a way to compile JavaScript into C#, that it would.
So I haven't seen it yet, but Microsoft has become really big on, and when I say become, I use that relatively, because I mean, like, TypeScript was released in 2012 or something like that. They picked up the charge on Node probably like 2014, 2015. So all of these things they've been doing for a while. And I didn't learn about TypeScript until maybe like a month ago. So what TypeScript is, right, is so JavaScript, when developers are coming from statically typed languages and object-oriented languages like C#, for instance, JavaScript confuses them. And then JavaScript does a lot of weird stuff like variable hoisting. And then the way it deals with variables, because you don't have to define numbers or letters in JavaScript. Like, you just write it and JavaScript goes, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Which isn't a problem when you're writing these really small programs and you're going through tutorials. But the minute you try to solve like a big problem, like, it gets crazy. And so TypeScript, Microsoft has brought like some order to the system. So now you can, it's the transition from C# to JavaScript, if you're using TypeScript, is not very difficult. You just have to understand, you know, basic JavaScript syntax. And then everything else that you know, a hardcore JavaScript guy would know, guy or girl, I apologize, everybody, would know. Then they can just type that stuff in vanilla JavaScript, and TypeScript is still going to understand it. So, but yeah, when you compile TypeScript, right, when it's done at the runtime, it's all processed down into vanilla JavaScript. And I think the ES5 model. So it's a very So if you write a real big application using TypeScript, it's probably going to be next to impossible for you to read once it's converted to JavaScript. But I can see it, and again, right, this is just my prediction. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I can see where Microsoft would imagine, right? Because there's way more JavaScript people who know JavaScript than any other language on the planet. Like JavaScript is everywhere. Now, do they use it all the time? Probably not. Now imagine if this big company says, "Hey, look, right, all of you guys who are building these really robust, dynamic web applications in JavaScript, hey, why don't you port these over to C# and make them run on Windows?" Oh shit! Like epiphany moment. And so I think the creation of TypeScript may be the bridge for us to be able to do that, because they're showing us that, like, hey, we want you to be able to do these things, right? So, and I mean, I think Microsoft has the resource. They've had the resources that if they really like dug into more, and I mean, some of the devices that they've created in the mobile spaces, concepts are fantastic. They were just way ahead of their time, right? And then, you know, there's corporate structure and bureaucracy and stuff like that. Maybe they didn't want to release a bunch of this stuff. And again, like, I'm only so close to the metal, right? There, I mean, there's, you know, I still can't find the HoloLens guys. I don't know where they are, right? Because I'm there, but I'm not. I'm like in the mafia, you would be an associate. Yeah, I'm an associate. Yeah. Forget about it, right? But yes, I see that coming down the road for us to be able to write. I believe that's the ultimate goal, for us to be able to write in one language and have that and be able to use that language everywhere. And because of the Satya Nadella's vision and the direction he's taking Microsoft, and then the motto to empower every business and human on the planet to do more, it just makes sense, right? If Michael wants to go out and learn Erlang, then let him do it, right? But once he learns that, he should be able to use it anywhere, right? And I believe that they're creating that system where you can learn one thing and have it work all over like C# is already there. C# is that you can write something in C# and you can use it everywhere. I'm not so sure. I know about as far as the web goes, like the back end. So you can write a program in C# like it'll run on, you can run it on iOS, you can run it on Android, and it can power the back end of your web application. You still have to know some HTML and CSS, and possibly some JavaScript. But I think that's going to change here. I think in the next few years, we're going to see something really different. And for me, it's exciting. I'm just waiting on these guys to release a phone. If they release a phone and they don't mess it up, and and I mean, there's a high probability that they may, but if they don't mess it up, it's game on. It's huge opportunity for everybody. And then I think we're going to start to see a lot of that stuff. The ability to build a whole application using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But I don't want people to get like, there's still going to be work involved, because you're going to have to learn about how people use iOS. You have to learn about how people use Android and stuff like, and you're going to have to consider that when you're building the interfaces of your applications. But it's, as far as having to write like 2 completely different or 3 completely different batches of code, that's gonna be gone if it isn't gone already. So yeah, man, that's what I think is going down.
That's one of the things that I found really, I would get very anxious about this whole idea as to whether I should be learning native iOS or should I really be learning Cordova and React Native. And I would really have a battle in my head trying to figure out where's the market going to be in 5 years? Is there going to be a market for native? And I pretty much made my mind up when I heard people starting to talk about large companies like Wix, for example, when they sat down at the table to decide whether they're going to go native, Swift and Java, they chose React Native because they decided it would just cost too much money to maintain 2 code bases.
Yeah.
So when you see companies, billion-dollar companies, choosing React Native over native Swift and Java, then I think that tells you something. So yeah, I think something definitely needs to be done to kind of create a situation where you can write it once and deploy it anywhere.
And it makes sense from a business standpoint too. I mean, and I think that's is what Microsoft is saying, right? Like, you can, if you bring all of the people, right, the developers will come. And if you bring all the developers, the people will come. And we've seen that in all of us, we've got to use Apple as sort of Apple and the iPhone as a model, right? When the iPhone first came out, you know, there were people who didn't believe in it, like, oh, this thing, it's crap, right? But now look at it, right? It is, everybody has an iPhone, right? You know, so there's people who have two phones, it just because they want one of them to be an iPhone. And so, and that is what made the App Store what it is. But now, you know, I see and I'm an Apple fan, right? I've been using Apple products forever, right? I'm starting to see the frustration, because I remember when I first started learning HTML, that's all that existed to me. There was HTML and C++. Like those are the only two things I knew about. And C++ was next to impossible, because you had to have a compiler. Like, you had to go buy compiler software and install it. And it's hard to find, it's hard to pirate, difficult to crack. And so, you know, now you have the internet, which is brand new, and it's like, oh, I can write stuff and put it on the internet. So there was a little confusion back then. As time goes on, things get more and more complicated. Now we enter this world where it's like, you know, I've experienced code a little bit, and I want to know where to go. And then now there's a 1,000 different options, right? Do I write stuff for iOS? Do I write stuff for for Mac? Do I write stuff for Windows? Do I write stuff for Android? Do I write stuff for the internet? But what if I want to do both? What if I learn JavaScript? I got to learn this thing called Angular and jQuery. What's jQuery? Oh, now I got to learn jQuery. Oh, React. What's that? I got Bootstrap. I don't know. And so there's all this stuff all over the place, man. And it's really, it's daunting to people. But yeah, I'm happy somebody, at least in theory, like, because they're saying it. I don't know if it's gonna happen completely yet. It's going like, dude, we can make this easy for you guys, right? Learn what you want to learn, right? Whatever makes you happy, and then we'll try our best to handle the rest, right? You know, we won't get it 100%, because, you know, I mean, we're only human. But we'll try, and this is what we're focusing on moving forward.